begin by quoting the jury in the Manhattan hush money payment trial. Guilty, 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 guilty. This was what the jury pronounced unanimously on every count. My Republican colleagues don't really contest Donald Trump's guilt. This is the fascinating thing. Their argument is essentially he should have been prosecuted, or they falsely claim it was a political prosecution, or they falsely claim it should have been a misdemeanor, not a felony. But they don't contest, not really, that Donald Trump was making hush money payments to a porn star to hide their affair from voters. What they're really saying is they're more than comfortable nominating and electing as the President of the United States someone making hush money payments to a porn star. The party formerly of the moral majority is now, I suppose, hoping to fashion some kind of immoral majority to reinstate Donald Trump as president. I want to begin.
Sunlight is the best disinfectant, and we need transparency. And while Republicans have ignored the crisis at the court, today's hearing is critical for letting the American public know how extremists on the right are coordinating across branches of government to enact wholesale, widespread policy violence. Mr. Anderson, have you heard of Project 2025?
Congresswoman, yes, I have.
My colleagues and I, we've been raising the alarm on Project 2025, a far-right manifesto that has hundreds of pages of extremist policies to destroy the federal government as we know it. Everything from a national abortion ban to eliminating the Department of Education, to mass firings of civil servants to be replaced by partisan sycophants. Now, much of this focus has been on agencies in the executive branch, but it also implicates the judiciary. The only way right-wing extremists will be able to ensure their policies are carried out is if the Supreme Court will back them. So Congress must act. We have to expand the court to create balance and fairness. We need a binding, enforceable code of ethics to ensure accountability. We need investigations into Justices Samuel Alito, Clarence Thomas, Brett Kavanaugh, and any others with a record of impropriety on the highest court in our nation. And we desperately need court reform to defend our democracy and save lives. I'm a firm believer that sunlight is the best.
Well, she is, of course, spot on with Clarence Thomas. Oh my gosh! Once again, millions and millions of more money and gifts from MAGA donors to Clarence Thomas, and he's not declared in any way, shape, or form. He's been called out. The Supreme Court has long since, I mean, we talk about it when these things happen, but they've long since become, they're like everything else. The Klans people who've taken off their masks and say, well, this is who I am. The Supreme Court is saying this is who we are, mostly Clarence Thomas, with the lead in that. Millions and millions of dollars undeclared, and he still sits in judgment of those who give him the million. He doesn't recuse himself, and any day now he is going to be seated, or not be seated, but give his opinion. They're going to decide whether Donald Trump has immunity. The bought and paid for is out in the open. It's out in the open, and yet he is going to, he's gonna side with Trump. He has no choice. He has absolutely no choice. and Justice Alito, and his wife, Clarence Thomas and his wife. It is the most disgusting Supreme Court, the most disgusting um, political leaders, I guess, or lawmakers we've ever had exist now on the whole. And that includes those we don't even talk about. That includes those who supposedly are trying to do the right thing. Another thing about that too, another thing Adam Schiff, uh, always outspoken. We saw him. He was the first in the first video that Greer put up. But here's the thing where Democrats, again, don't read the room. Because they're talking about things that people cared about decades ago, certainly before Trump got into office. They're talking about things like patriotism and democracy. Most folks could care less anymore. In fact, one of the things that drives the crazies is that this idea that democracy is not important. There is a poll that showed that virtually all of supporters of MAGA say that democracy doesn't matter. Living in a democracy doesn't matter. And President Biden has a new ad that's going out this morning. Just got a release from his campaign that says that um, it today on Flag Day, Biden Harris 2024 is launching a new ad called Our Flag, underscoring President Biden's commitment to democracy and American values. And they go on about the flag being a symbol of enduring democracy, freedom, and unity that has withstood the test of time, even as Donald Trump, a convicted felon, called to terminate the Constitution and threatens to rip away Americans' freedom if he's reelected president. And it's like blah, 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 blah. And nobody cares. Nobody cares. And I said this before, even before this thing with the MAGA folks. Black folks, you talking about you trying to get black votes. Black folks don't even understand. Not that they don't understand. To them, democracy has been no reparations. Democracy has been Jim Crow, and democracy has been all redlining and gentrification and all of that stuff. And people say, well, you're just you know breaking it down that way. That's just not right. But that's how the core of black folks see it. They understand it's important not to be in a dictatorship that will come if Trump wins. They understand that. Don't get me wrong. But they also understand that nothing has worked in the way that America does it. So this idea, again, in his ad, American values have often meant that black folks are subservient. So they got to find a different way. So these ads are going to air of all places um, during the Stanley Cup Finals, the NHL Stanley Cup Finals, um, CBS News Sunday mornings. Um, so again, they are. It's just falling nowhere. First of all, if you're watching the Stanley Cup Finals, you are one of 10 people doing so. I mean, I hate to say it like that. I mean, I love the Stanley Cup Finals. I love the NHL playoffs. But if you walk down the street and ask random people, anybody who is in the Stanley Cup Finals, first question they may ask you back is, what is the Stanley Cup Finals? And the second point would be, no, I don't. Hockey is such a great sport. and a great sport to watch live. The playoffs, there's no better playoffs than the NHL playoffs. No more exciting. And so if you're watching NHL playoffs and all that excitement, especially right now, Stanley Cup Finals, the Florida Panthers who beat my Rangers in the conference finals, they're going to win the Stanley Cup because their goalie is like a brick wall. Takuma Roebuck and I have been talking about this over the past couple of weeks. Um, and the goalie, I've never seen. I go back to Patrick Waugh. I go back to all of those great goalies, even our own Henrik Lundqvist. Um, I have never seen a goalie just be as a brick wall as my man down in Florida. But nonetheless, you watch that, you're watching with a beer. You're watching, in my case, you're watching with a scotch and a beer. But then you see this democracy ad come on. It's like, come on, get back to the game. And CBS mornings, Sunday morning, most people, we're in the summer. You're either packing up the car headed to the beach or you're sleeping in. So I don't know what they're trying. It's more. It's more. It's just another way around spending money with the black media, with the black owned media, in my opinion. Shucks. But yes, I see the comments about, as Mike B says, injustice, Thomas. And Power 96 says the U.S. Supreme Court is officially the 21st century Jim Crow court, no question about it. And yeah, so Capitol Hill, Trump returned. Yeah, look, this, it's just absolutely, he fits right in, right? Fits right in. How many times he was beat up in class or after class? Uh, how many times he did other things after class or in class or during class? Going, how many times they took him in the school basement? Power 96 says the Democrats should have had a press conference as soon as Trump arrived on Capitol Hill, telling the public Trump paid off a porn star and he is a 34 times convicted felon. Um, Daniela Pierre says more people may actually have a Stanley Cup than watch the Stanley Cup finals. Wow. Good morning, David Youngblood. Um, so, nonetheless, we're going to talk about that this morning. Yeah, Trump actually returned to the scene of the crime. They always say, you notice that if you ever watch programs like The First 48 or even like Law and Order or wherever, I used to love NYPD Blue. Um, but documentaries, they all say that the perpetrator, especially the perpetrator of certain crimes, almost always returns to the scene of the crime, and oftentimes that's how they get caught. Well, Donald Trump returned to the scene of the crime, the biggest crime committed by Americans on American soil, January 6th. We'll talk about that this morning. Atlanta police simply assassinated a black man who was in a mental health crisis, and there was really no threat. The video has finally been released. We're going to talk about that this morning. An Arizona man was indicted by a federal grand jury this week on several firearm charges. We're going to talk about this morning because he was planning to go to Atlanta to a Bad Bunny concert and assassinate as many Black and Latino people as possible. Should remind all of us of the Buffalo incident, the Buffalo massacre at a Top supermarket a couple of years ago, where that white supremacist, white racist, um, searched the zip codes in Buffalo to find out who has the most Black folks and went up there and shot up and killed all of those elderly people. And keeping in Atlanta, we're going to talk about this DoorDash driver who, unprovoked, decided that, you know, he didn't want to serve Negroes. He didn't say Negroes. Um, The Justice Department yesterday announced the results of a year-long investigation that found that the Phoenix Police Department uses excessive force and has engaged in conduct that violates people's rights and discriminates, of course, against Black, Hispanic, and Native American people. And before we go this morning, it's Friday, so we have to bring you some more light news and some really cool news. Quincy Jones, the big time producer, the architect of Michael Jackson's Thriller, has been nominated for 7 Oscars in the past 55 years, including Best Original Score, Best Song, and even Best Picture. And he's never collected a competitive statue during the Academy Awards. Well, the Academy wants to make it up to him. We'll tell you how this morning. But first, uh, in Atlanta, over the past 2 years, the family of Nigel Cullins, who was shot and killed by police at a Buckhead restaurant, has questioned why authorities didn't do more to de-escalate the situation. They say that the 22-year-old Black man had mental health issues, with his mother calling 911 earlier that day for help. A video released by the Atlanta Police Department this week. And this video, if you see this video, if you haven't seen it, got to warn you that it is extremely triggering. It is hard on the eyes, hard on the stomach. Um, but Mr. Cullins is in a restaurant and he was finishing a drink or a beverage or something. It just doesn't matter. He's obviously in a crisis, and they called the police. Now, the mother had already called and said that her son was in a health crisis, mental health crisis. She told them where they could find him. She just wanted him in a facility, which they had arranged. They come in. He's scared, and I see that Greer is using great discretion. She's not going to show the videos to show the picture, um, but they come in and he starts backing up. He puts his hands up and then he goes to the ground and they're yelling at him. They got their guns out. I think they tased him. Oh, she's gonna she's gonna throw away discretion. Um, and here's the video. Again, we warn you, it is very triggering. I mean, the officer, okay, she cuts it a little bit, but the officer, more than one, simply unloads. He emptied his clip and he's down on the floor with his hands up. And he unloads on the guy, and the other officer shoots too. It's like, how do these people live with themselves? It is this, again, I always use a scripture, right? There's no natural affection. This is what was forecast, and if you believe in the Bible, it was forecast. No natural affection. And these folks wearing these badges and carrying these guns, many of them, it's like for sport, they taking lives. This young man, 22 years old, in a mental health crisis, not attacking anyone. Um, the mother, the mother talks to the dispatcher. I called about 10 minutes ago, and she's telling them how bad must she feel today and since his murder, that she told them where to go. She said she called them, she found out where he was at, and she told them. Mike V says we need a 611 number for mental health crisis response teams. That's been said so many times. And Mike V, you're absolutely right. Um, and yet they do nothing about it. Yes, Greer says she's furious. You can't help but to be furious. He was already on the ground. A security guard, when he got up the first time, the only time he got up, a security guard in the establishment tackled him for the police. And of course, he moved out the way as they unloaded. I mean, when I say unloaded, just kept going as if he was returning fire. 96 says, I'm begging Black people not to call the police in case of a mental crisis. And you're right. You're right. So, and these cops, now the Fulton County District Attorney's Office is now has the case. Well, they had it, they got it a year ago. These same cops, now this happened 2 years ago, and Fulton County got it last year. Those two cops, those three cops, or whomever, they're still on the force. This is just disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. So we're gonna stay in Atlanta as we see this news conference of family. Do we have volume for that or okay? So we're gonna stay in Atlanta on another case there in Atlanta. As we said at the top, an Arizona man indicted by a federal grand jury yesterday on several firearms charges have been accused by the U.S. Department of Justice of planning a mass shooting targeting Black people and Latino people at a Bad Bunny concert in May. The guy's name is Mark Prieto. He's 58 years old. He had 7 guns when he was arrested on May 14th while driving east from Arizona through New Mexico. His charges that he's facing is firearms trafficking, transfer of a firearm for use in a hate crime, and possession of an unregistered firearm. Uh, what kills me is that they say that he, if convicted, can receive 15 years in prison. 15 years? This guy was planning. The Bad Bunny concert was at the State Farm Arena, which holds about 20,000 people. So, in essence, he was planning to take out 20,000 people. Danielle Pierre says 988 is the number for crisis lifeline. Perhaps that number should be used instead of 911 during mental health crisis. But I don't know, what do they do, Daniela, when you call 988? Do they send people out? Do they also notify the police? I believe
After
they.
a confidential informant who spoke with him more than a dozen times over 3 years at various gun shows said Prieto called for a mass shooting targeting Blacks, Jews, and Muslims before the 2024 presidential election. During a January gun show in Phoenix, Prieto tried recruiting that informant and an undercover FBI agent. According to court records, Prieto wanted to carry the plan out in Georgia because, he says, when he was a kid, that was one of the most conservative states in the country. More specifically, Prieto wanted to carry out the attack at a rap concert because he said there would be, quote, a high concentration of African Americans. During a February meetup at a gun show, Prieto began offering details of the plan, including the number of guns to be used. During this meetup, Prieto sold that undercover agent a gun for $2,000 and said he would also like to use grenades during the attack because it can, quote, cause panic. At another gun show in March in Prescott Valley, Prieto provided more specific details. That attack would take place in Atlanta at State Farm Arena on May 14th or 15th. Performing that night was rapper Bad Bunny. During that gun show, Prieto sold an AR-15 rifle to that undercover agent for $1,000 and told them to, quote, bring as many magazines as the gun could carry. In the following weeks, agents continued to monitor Prieto's movements. During an April meetup, Prieto continued to fine-tune his plans, even discussing heading east to do reconnaissance, but emphasized the attack, quote, must happen prior to the election and as soon as possible. Authorities arrested Prieto back on May 14th as he crossed into New Mexico. Investigators say he had several guns in his truck, even more found at his home in Prescott while executing a search warrant.
Yeah. Power 96 says 15 years for planning a terrorist attack. Sounds about white. And Mike V says, look up Cahoots out of Eugene, Oregon. They have a very successful mental health crisis response team, a template for the rest of the country. But you heard it. This is about, again, you wanted to do it before the election. Boy, they will do anything to suppress your vote. I mean, my gosh, it's not funny, but come on. But it's interesting. I see Bobby Henry, the chairman of the NPA, who is planning to be in Baltimore for our convention beginning on Tuesday. He's watching. Him and I were on a panel yesterday with Al McFarlane, and one of the things that came up was this of this arming and this race war, this civil war, and one of the things we talked about on that panel was the fact that you see how easy it is to get guns of all sorts, and now that many states, including Louisiana and other states, Arkansas and so many others, where 18-year-olds, they can't buy a pack of cigarettes. They can't go in the liquor store and buy a bottle, but they can conceal carry without a license or permit. The Supreme Court recently ruled in favor of the NRA, and MAGA Republicans on Capitol Hill continue to make it go against laws that would make it tougher to get weapons, particularly things like AR-15s. Folks, stop sleeping. They are arming. Everyone is arming themselves. The 34 times convicted felon, the convicted sex abuser, who is the front runner for the GOP presidential nomination, has called on folks that if by chance he does not win in November, he has essentially blown the whistles saying that there's going to be war in this country. Cheryl Brown says that he wanted to do a mass murder with our people. It's always downsized or quickly. They'll say the white people had mental issues, excuses. Um, and Daniela Pierre says our greatest arsenal is unity. And you're 100% right, Daniela Pierre. And this is a part of what we talked about yesterday. Like I said, on that panel with Bobby Henry, one of the things I keep saying, and we go back and we talked, we heard Ayanna Presley earlier with the Project 2025. And you look at, when you talk about unity, Daniela, it is so hard to attain that, especially when you have those who have platforms, major platforms, who have major followings. Stephen A. Smith, Snoop Dogg, Ice Cube, Sexy Red, um, those in blackface like Clarence Thomas and Byron Donalds and Ben Carson, Candace Owens. It's hard to have that type of unity. Jay-Z, um, when you have those folks like that spewing the misinformation and the disinformation, it makes it difficult for that unity. Maybe they are of the mind that we need to be in the trenches so bad with our, back on that slave ship before we come together. Maybe that's what they feel like it'll take. But certainly when you have, we talked about what Jay-Z is, the despicable thing that he and Rock Nation is doing in Philadelphia, supporting MAGA there, um, MAGA policies at least. and all the rest supporting Mr. MAGA himself, Jim Jones. Number two, Bobby Henry says one of their greatest weapons is creating a division within us. And I guess to summarize it, yes, absolutely. Power 96 reminds us that Sexy Red got arrested. She looked real trashy in that video. She should have been charged with a felony. And she looks trashy in her own music videos or whatever she posts on Twitter. Listen, I have no respect whatsoever. Because, well, you got to respect the talent. I don't even know what the talent is. Don't even know what the talent is. It's hard to look at somebody like that and see any good. I'm not God. God sees good in all. I don't I don't I'm not I'm trying to be as godlike as possible, but I just can't see it. Um Surveillance footage. Now, this is another thing. Sometimes we like to DoorDash it, but this might make you think twice. Surveillance video from a home doorbell camera in Nashville has gone viral, showing a white DoorDash delivery driver brazenly using the N-word, but was out of earshot of the customer while placing the order on the front porch. Uh, he goes, here's your food. Well, let's just give it to you straight. Here's the video.
Here's your food, nigger.
Okay. Okay. So we don't really have volume, do we? Well, he says, here's your food, nigger. And then he goes, chow down, nigger. That's exactly what he said. I hate to use that word. I hate to repeat that word. I saw Malcolm. Oh, here we go.
Here's your food, nigger.
I'm provoked. I saw Malcolm Jamal Warner doing a podcast the other day, and he talks about his love of J. Cole, but he can't listen to J. Cole because of all the M words. He says he's tired of it. He thinks it's just gratuitous, and it for him it just knocks down any meaning or whatever that the rest of the song may have. Um, I'm right there with him. And so Quinn, this was where I was going as well. Quinn says I wouldn't eat that food. Right, right. How do you eat the food after that? You can't. You got the feeling like it's remember the help? Come on. Um, and even the the homeowner, she says that did he not see my Ring camera? Yeah, he saw it. He didn't care. He wanted you to hear it. Now, DoorDash said they immediately terminated this guy's services. They say they claim to be horrified and appalled by the incident. They had no choice but to stop dealing with him, at least in that area. Who knows? They may send him somewhere else. I don't trust these companies. These are the same companies, these companies after George Floyd. Oh, we pledged to do this. We vowed to do that. And where are you now? And I agree. Publicize his name, David Youngblood says, and so does Power 96. They have not released his name. Of course they haven't. Yeah, sure. I hope they didn't eat it either. I would imagine there's no way that they could have eaten that food. No way. No way. But this is America, and this is what I said at the top. This idea of patriotism and democracy. It means something totally different to those folks. Patriotism and democracy means not what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris wants you to understand it to be, which in the traditional sense. patriotism to them. We saw what it was, January 6th. And January 6th, as we said earlier, with everyone arming themselves and Trump still like inciting and MAGA still excited. January 6th is just will prove to be just an exercise for what's to come if these folks don't get their way. And it may come even if they do get their way. That was just an exercise. This is a trial run. Because also understand this, that every single person that has been convicted for January 6th, charged for January 6th, despite the fact that more than 140 police officers were injured, 5 eventually uh, died as a direct result of January 6th. Make no mistake, every single one of the perpetrators will be exonerated by Donald Trump. He's already let you know that. Project 2025 lets you know that as well, that these people, these patriots, as they want to call them, are going to be released. Their records are going to be expunged. And Cheryl, she says, when the chief MAGA became president, he opened up the Pandora box again with the racism, and they've been waiting time. They've been waiting to come back and start the insanity of racism and calling you the N word, but they're about to have a rude awakening because we are not ancestors. We're not going to turn the other cheek and allow him to talk and assault us and our families. But that's just the way it is. And yes, the criminal returns to the scene of the crime. Um, Chief Mag, as Cheryl says, did return to Capitol Hill. And there was a lot of backlash. I agree, though, that there should have been, Democrats should have held a press conference, and they should have held it right outside his arrival area. Um, he has not taken any responsibility for his actions on that day or for his conduct in general. And as we said, even though a New York jury slammed him with 34 guilty verdicts last month, felony guilty verdicts, paying hush money for an extramarital affair with an adult film star. In total, this guy faces about 90 felony charges in 4 jurisdictions. Several protesters gathered outside carrying signs with messages such as failed cool and no one is above the law. And Jasmine Crockett was outraged. She says, 3 years after waging a continual war on our democracy, and see, there he goes again, democracy. Donald Trump, a convicted criminal, returns to Capitol Hill to hang out with the very same MAGA extremists who acted as his proxies on January 6th. He says Trump and his cronies attacked our free and fair elections. They attacked our peaceful transition of power, and they attacked our Capitol. And the American people are fighting back at the ballot box to defend democracy. Again, Jasmine Crockett, we think that she is, among the best at what she does. Certainly has gained a lot of popularity, and rightfully so. But again, I think the Democrats, your messaging about this democracy is falling flat. Her ideal, and so is all Democrats, I guess, is to see Hakeem Jeffries as the House Speaker and Biden reelected. Former January 6th Select Committee Chair Benny Thompson um, said Trump had the audacity to come to Capitol Hill. He says after inciting a deadly insurrection that defiled the halls of Congress, how dare he show his face on these grounds? He says since January 6th, Trump, a twice impeached convicted felon, has repeatedly doubled down on his disrespect for the rule of law and continues to sow hate and division. He still presents the same dire threat, again, to our democracy that he did 3 years ago, and he'd be wise to head back to Mar-a-Lago. And so why would he be wise to head back to Mar-a-Lago? I mean, um, the man is Teflon. Yeah, he was convicted last month, but where is that headed? Where is that really headed? Is it headed for any real consequences? I guess we'll have to find out, right? We'll have to find out. And Adam Schiff says every Republican meeting with Trump, who has promised to be a dictator on day one if he's elected and prophesied a bloodbath if he's not, should commit today to accept the results of November's free and fair election. But of course, they will not. No, he says nothing means more to them than power, not oath, not truth, not decency, not democracy, nothing. And that's my point, Adam Schiff. It's all about the power. Adam Schiff is 1000% right here. Did no better sentence. He says, and I'm going to repeat, nothing means more to them than power, not oath, not truth, not decency, not democracy. And that is the message that they have to hone and really tout out. And right. So once again, Power 96 asks this question a lot. Where are the black MAGA Billies in that photo? Where are they anyway? Uh, it's one thing. Again, people have their politics. Certainly, um, Byron Bojangles Donalds has his. Uncle Clarence has his. Ben I'm Lost in Space Carson has his. But when you see blatant racism, blatant hate, and you join in with that instead of calling it out, what kind of coward did your mother raise? You guys are the ones with the absentee dads. Good Lord. The Justice Department, I should say, on yesterday announced the results of a years-long investigation that found that the Phoenix Police Department used excessive force. They routinely use excessive force and engage in conduct that violates the rights and discriminates against Black, Hispanic, and Native American people. The Justice Department found a pattern or practice of the violation, saying police frequently stop, detain, and arrest even homeless people without reasonable suspicion that they've committed any crime at all. The city of Phoenix and its police department seize and destroy the property of homeless people without providing adequate notice or fair opportunity to collect their belongings, according to the Justice Department. Assistant Attorney General uh, Kristen Clark, who oversees the Civil Rights Division, said this finding is historic. This marks the first time that the Justice Department has found violations of the civil and constitutional rights of people who are homeless. Now, yesterday I sat in another thing I sat in on. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass invited us to sit in on a Black media roundtable, and I sat in on that as well, in which she talked about homeless and homelessness and how they are treated and what they're doing in Los Angeles and what she hopes to see done nationwide. But the assault on homeless people has escalated to places we've not seen ever before. So, Gina Stewart, no problem, Gina. Gina Stewart says, thanks for the Project 2025 article. It has served up conversation with the Telegram News's readers. And that is the thing. More people must talk about that Project 2025. Even this homeless topic that we're talking about, it all fits in. It all fits in. So, Gina, I am so glad that the Telegram News found really good use with that article. I'm sure other members of the National Newspaper Publishers Association does the same. This is one of the primary reasons why I am the senior national correspondent. So, and we do plan to do more on even on this program, Project 2025, as Greer says, and certainly plan to write more about it as well because it's so important that people arm themselves with as much information as possible. That old saying, "Information is power." You have to be, and you're just not. I've seen it, we're not the only ones talking or certainly writing about Project 2025, but I've seen, as expected, the watered down versions, the kind versions. Oh, they're gonna, federal employees may lose their jobs, stuff like that, as if that is the biggest issue. That is certainly an issue. Um, but those issues run a lot deeper. But Mayor Karen Bass had a really, really nice roundtable. Other mayors joined that call. Mayors from New Orleans, St. Louis, and other places joined that call as well. And so, yeah, and so with Project 2025, that's the thing. And Greer mentions this. Um, we talk about it, and we'll continue to talk about Project 2025 because, no, hey, listen, we understand. It's like, what is it? 400 and something. It's a manifesto. And most people, whether they're white, black, brown, Native American, Asian, well, we don't read. We don't read most of us when it comes to new stuff. We don't read everything. So we feel like it's really vital that we cover this Project 2025, bring out the points. I mentioned Jasmine Crockett earlier. Love how she dissected it in front of one of its authors on Capitol Hill a month or so ago. And I see where Cheryl Brown's talking about teaching our children right from wrong history. And so that's the thing with that. So that they've banned books. That they want to pretend and really do away with all reference of um, history about the real America, about Jim Crow, about the transatlantic slave trade, um, and all of the racism. So it's important. It's extremely important that folks are provided this information. Um, and we see that right there, that headline. The Supreme Court in Oklahoma, they dismissed the Tulsa massacre lawsuit. You have two remaining survivors that we've covered, 104 and 105, I think, years old. Hughes Van Ness, another one who was 103, I guess, when he died last November. But they tossed that lawsuit. That 1921 attack was certainly uh, racially charged and motivated. It really, really stunted the progress, set the progress back so much so that even today we're still trying to recover from the Tulsa race massacre. Think about that, 1921. And we've had these reparation conversations. And and it's just they're making it illegal to even talk about reparations. There's a bill floating that makes it illegal to talk about reparations. And Mike V says all that time they wanted the FBI to investigate black identity extremists, and the real extremists have a whole manifesto and no FBI investigation to make it make sense. A whole manifesto. But yeah, they have laws floating around now where they want to make it illegal for anyone to um, seek reparations. And of course, we know with affirmative action going down the tubes with the Supreme Court and other rights, the Fearless Fund down in Atlanta, black women can't give grants to black women businesses unless they include white women. And folks, they want to tell you, see, this misinformation, disinformation, these lies, they want to tell you that you have your hand out. But that's where they want us. They want us to have our hands out. November will determine if we will be a democracy or an apartheid, says Mike V. He's absolutely correct. He's absolutely correct. It is Friday. And yeah, so you see that picture there. See, that picture's there for a reason. You can bring it back if you want, Greer. But folks, it's no joke. It's no joke. That's exactly what Project 2025, that's what Trump and the MAGA clan, that's where they want it. That's the end game. People said that question came up yesterday in the roundtable with Bobby Henry and Al McFarland. That's the end game. And again, as I said yesterday, and I say this all the time, people say broken record. Y'all say, oh, they can't do that. They continue to show you that they can. That old saying, I can show you better than I can tell you. And they have been doing it, and it has become more and more obvious since 2016. And they continue to show you. So don't say that cannot be done. They are setting laws to make sure that it can be done. How many times we've seen a video of a black person or a Latino person getting arrested or shot by police, and you said they can't do that. Well, they did, and they're loosening. Look, Trump is on record. He said, "Shoot them in the street. Send the military in and shoot them in the street." The taking away the women's bodily autonomy. Oh, they can't do that. They worked since 1973. They plotted to do that, and they were successful after all these years. They don't give up. They don't stop. Um, affirmative action. Oh, they can't do that. They did it. They did it. The only thing right now, and that even Clarence Thomas says that all the rights are on the table. Now, like we said before, he was stopping short of uh, interracial marriage. But even with Clarence Thomas and Byron Donalds touting out, flaunting their lily white spouses, there is still discussions being held that when it's about interracial marriage. And you best believe for those in the LGBTQ community that you guys, this idea of, we had the controversy a few years ago where the clerk, I think it was in Arizona, refused to give the license to um, a couple. Well, that's going to be the law of the land. That is, it's no question. And again, I gotta emphasize, as I was telling Bobby Henry yesterday, and Al McFarlane yesterday. This is not hyperbole. This is not an exaggeration. This is not a viewpoint. This is fact. This is what they are doing. This is exactly what they're doing. And you know, again, not to be like biblical again, but again, if you believe in the scriptures, it says man has dominated man to his harm, and we see that. We see that, and we see a guy like that who don't know up from down. What they call him, mushmouth. I mean, he has no mirrors in his home without question. None. Not one mirror. It's pathetic. The brothers of Jim Crow, says Mike V. And see these guys, their hope, their hope again is to be the house Negro. That's why they're working so hard to be the house Negroes. They they don't want to be out in the fields with us. They don't want to be in the fields. You know, we look at Vice President Kamala Harris, who will be cleaning somebody's windows if November goes the way these folks want it to go. If Project 2025 comes to fruition. Look, Byron Donalds, who probably already is shining literally at Trump's shoes. That will be one of his top jobs. Spit shine those shoes, boy. That's going to be it. They don't understand. This is not, again, this is not some view. This is not hyperbole. This is not an exaggeration. They are, yes, Cheryl, they're coming for everyone that uh they're coming for all of us. Power 96 says Byron Donalds is a convicted drug dealer and he is convicted of bribery. And Byron Donalds, again, look at it, pat him on the head. Good job, boy. Good job, boy. Now we gonna give you a butter biscuit. Byron Donalds was convicted of drug dealing. Byron Donalds also benefited from a diversion program, which he didn't have to go into prison. And that same diversion program, believe it or not, look it up, folks. Believe it or not, Byron Donalds just voted against that diversion program, saying that people should, this is what he said, people should pay for their choices. And when pressed about his, he said he was not, he said he wasn't running from what he did, but he can't go back into the past and change it. Yet, this bootlicking on his knees, living on his knees, inward, wants to, it's like we said about Clarence Thomas and others, immediately kick the ladder from which he climbed. Kick that. How does anyone respect that? How does anyone respect? He is one of those dudes, and he got the little white wife there that I said this before. People say, "Oh, that's not right." He go up to Mar-a-Lago. Trump comes down in a robe, sees his wife, says, "Byron, go get us some lemonade. Let me talk to your wife in my bedroom for, the 35 seconds that, I might last." And Byron goes get the lemonade. Why Trump defiles his wife. I can see it happening. It wouldn't surprise me to learn somewhere down the line that that's what was going on, and not just Trump. That's how that's how bad that type of cooning goes. Like V says, Byron is on the short list for VP. However, it sounds like Trump will endorse him for governor. They are setting up for 2028. They always that's the listen, if they I love that last picture. They always are plotting. Yep. And Power 96 mentions that his wife works for Moms for Liberty. She likes to ban books. Yep. Look at that. Pat on the head. That's the thing that kills me with the Jay-Z's of the world and the Snoop Dogs of the world and the others we always talk about, Steve. Always looking for that pat on the head from let's face it, truth to power. Pat on the head from the white man. I don't care what Totally Randy says. She looks at it from a totally different she looks at it from a fangirl lens only. She can't see beyond that when it comes to Jay-Z. But that's what they look for. Because as Mike V and Southbound and Power 96 always says on this program, they always write in that the other man's ice is colder. And look at him sucking on that cigar, probably wishing it was Trump. Um, but that is what goes on here with these bumbling coons. It gets under your skin. I try my best to be neutral on stuff. It's not working for me because when you see this stuff, like are you kidding me? Unreal. Um, Before we go, Quincy Jones has been nominated for 7 Oscars in the past 55 years, including Best Original Score, Best Song, and even Best Picture. But he's never collected a competitive Academy Award. But this November, the Oscars want to make it up to him. He will receive an honorary Oscar from the Academy's Board of Governors in recognition of his contributions to the art of film. He and cast and director Juliet Taylor, filmmaker Richard Curtis, and James Bond producers Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli, Broccoli will all be honored at this year's Governors Awards, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences announced. Quincy, who has contributed to films like In Cold Blood, The Wiz, The Color Purple, um, and of course, Taylor casting credits include Taxi Driver, Annie Hall, Sleepless in Seattle, and Schindler's List. They're going to receive those honorary Oscars. So congratulations to Quincy Jones, who who has really, really, really done so much in the world of entertainment. He was given the Herschelt Award in 1994, and he has set records, box office records with some of his work. Certainly, we know his prowls as a producer of music. So it's truly a deserving honor for Quincy Jones, the man they call Q. Q's about 90 years old now, and he still does little things here and there at 90. Good for you, Quincy Jones. As Mike B says, Winnie Mandela had a way to deal with traitors. But congratulations to the Q man. Honorary Oscar this year goes to Quincy Jones. Great work, great career, and quite the legacy. The man named Quincy Jones. Hey guys, you've been doing a great job with subscribing and getting folks to subscribe to our YouTube page. Keep up the great work. We really want you over at YouTube. We can do so much more at YouTube. Some of you watch us on Facebook. We appreciate that as well. Twitter, LinkedIn. We continue to appreciate you down Tuesday, starting Tuesday, really Wednesday, but we will be arriving in Baltimore on Tuesday. We'll be broadcasting from Charm City. As Bobby Henry said, one of the blackest cities. So we're looking forward to that as next Friday night is the gala that I know my girls are looking forward to the gala. Look, I got a preview of the gowns that they will be wearing. Boy, oh boy, I am a wonderfully people say they're blessed. I don't like to use that word, but I guess I'll use it in this term. When we come, we come. They come strong. What the girls are gonna be the belle of the ball. they, I know I'm biased. They my girls, but they are. They gave us a preview. They gave me a preview, I should say. Whew. They are going to rock out on Friday night. And I tell you what, like we said, uh, President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, they have their invitations in hand. And if nothing else, they need to show up. Look at Paris Guy and Stacy too. That's my little girl, and that's my Paris Guy. Wait till you see them at the ball. Oh boy, David Youngblood probably stop in. He'll stop in. I got to introduce you to my girls. I don't know. Power 96 doesn't usually make the trip from Louisiana, but David does. David comes in and he chills with us. But come the Biden Harris, the president, vice president. Greer and I was at the White House like a week ago, and they gave us these M&Ms in a box with Biden signed them or whatever. I gave them to Paris Guy, and she was so thrilled. She's looking forward to it. She like all of the black press is hoping that the president keeps the invitation and take it to heart and shows up. She would love to see the president in person. So look, y'all talk about the young ones, Biden, Harris. You got a young one looking forward to seeing you guys at the National Newspaper Publishers Association's annual convention in Baltimore, right down the road from the White House. I mean, it's a hop, skip without the jump. So we are expect. Bobby Henry told me yesterday he gonna light them up if they don't show up. He gonna light them up like we saw with Bob Bogle back in 1992. And David says, "Indeed, I will be there." So David has made his commitment. You know, David does not renege on his commitments. So President Biden, take heed to David Youngblood. Power 96 was going to instead will be at the Negro League baseball game in Alabama, but that's okay. We know that you will be, as they say, with us in spirit, Power 96. But yeah, come on down to Baltimore. Hey, you can join us Friday night. You can actually purchase a ticket to the ball, to the gala on Friday night. It's not expensive. Go to NNPA-events.com and you'll see drop down menus and things like that. And I think there's some space still available. It's going to be a tribute to Frankie Beverly. You know, Frankie Beverly hung it up after all these years. So it's going to be really, really nice. Nice music, of course, Frankie Beverly. And like we said, the president, the vice president, back in March, they received formal invitations to appear. So we've been working on that. And Power 96 says he hopes we live stream the NNPA event every day, he says in capital letters. We will see what we will see, but we will be at the Blacks and Wax Museum in Baltimore as well. The chairman, Bobby Henry, his reception will take place there. There'll be cocktails. Look, it's all in the drop down menu. The NMPA Fund will have its merit awards. That means the best in Black journalism, Black press journalism. Now that discounts myself. I'm not eligible for the awards because I am the senior national correspondent, but I demand justice. Remember Little Richard? Y'all ain't never gave me nothing. Maybe I didn't need to get up on that platform and say that. Y'all ain't never gave me nothing. But Greer, don't Greer deserve Power 96? Tell the truth. Don't Greer deserve producer of the year or something like that? I mean, come on. So let's get it right. Let's get it right. I mean, a lot of presentations, a lot of our sponsors, Pfizer, GM, you run down the list. Partners and sponsors will have presentations, and we'll be there. So and Power 96 says, hell yeah, she does. Yes, indeed. Yeah, there you see the chairman's reception. Bobby, listen, Bobby, the pressure's on. We expecting the best chairman's reception of all time, not just in recent memory. Bobby, of all time. That means top-notch scotch. You can stop there, but I mean top-notch scotch. Even if it's coming out your own little bag. We expect nothing but the best, Bobby Henry. You can't come from Fort Lauderdale short. We got to do this right. Our publishers there, the Baltimore Times and the Afro, we expecting big things from y'all. Listen, I'm gonna start with the competition because when we went to Houston, I will say this about Karen Carter Richards. When we went to Houston, we got a police escort and everything. She did it right. Did it right. So the heat is on, Afro and Baltimore Times. It's two of y'all. The Four Times did their thing when we went to Houston. So we expecting some things in Charm City. Definitely Nashville. They did their thing in Nashville. Our publishers there. Rosetta Perry. So the heat is on, Dr. Draper and Joy, and by proxy, her managing editor, Paris. So let's do it right. And Bobby, the heat is on, Bobby. Roll that red carpet out the way. We know you can. And y'all support Dr. Chavis and his efforts. And of course, the person who puts all that together, we appreciate so much. None other than the executive administrator of the NMPA, Ms. Claudette Perry. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you on Monday.